Drafting demonstration, V-block. Thank you for joining us. Step 1, we need to set up the paper, and as we're using a T-square here, we'll need to square the paper to the T-square. If you're fortunate enough to have a drafting machine, you can put down the paper where it's convenient and then square the drafting machine to the paper. I've cut out some pieces of paper that represent the size of the object so that I can make more clear, I hope, what I'm trying to do with some mass. And I will say, it actually makes this step a little bit easier. So it may be actually something you want to try yourself. Right, well, we've got the depth of the top view and the height of the front view, and we've got 6.5 inches to put it all in, and that gives us 2 inches total. And if we have half an inch above and below the views, that'll give us an inch between the views. And that's tight, but we're drawing on a small piece of paper. And so I'll lay down some construction lines to represent that. And next we're going to do the calculations. For horizontal, we have 9.75 inches to work with. We have to allow for the 1 inch between views, so we have 1.5 inches left over, divide that in half, and we have 0.75 inches to the right and left of the views going to the border. Time now to draw the object itself. Now in this particular assignment, the challenge is the top view and the front view are rather straightforward, and they have pretty much all the information we need to draw them. But we cannot draw the side view until we have the other two views completed, because we're going to have to take some measurements from them. So I'm starting with the top view, which in this case is kind of our baseline view, if you will, and I can project down the ends of these angled pieces, the inflection point, to the front view. And then we find the height of these two notches, and we'll draw a construction line all the way into the side view because they will align. And then we're going to take some measurements from the original drawing and draw these construction lines that represent, in effect, a notch, if you will. And now I'm moving to drawing the actual object lines. Remember to make your object lines bold and strong. And I know where to end them because I have those construction lines in place. I'll bring the T-square down, and I'll do the horizontal lines now. You may have noticed I made a mistake. I went too far, so I'm going to fix that extraneous object line in the lower left. We'll draw these 230s. Done. And now we're going to get some information from the top view to create what you might think of as offsets in the side view. Triangle is up against the T-square, to be sure. It's T-square is down low and out of view. And then I can double check everything. See, I caught a mistake. Now we can go and draw in the object lines. We get the horizontal elements in. Right, time to start to dimensioning. And the thing about dimensioning is it is pretty essential in a working drawing for it to have value to say, no, really, this is the size things are. We shouldn't compel people to scale from drawings. Indeed, in some cases, the actual dimension, physical dimension of an object in a drawing may be incorrect, and yet acceptable if it's dimensioned appropriately. Right? Now, the challenge is working out where things are going to go and keeping it neat. So I am going to step a bunch of construction lines before doing the other line work here. Especially when you're beginning, it is a good idea to give yourself guidelines for the dimensions as well. They should be about 3/16 tall, quarter of inch if there's room enough. You could go to an eighth, but that's really pushing it. When we think about how drawings historically have been reproduced, if you go too small, the details are lost, and that would include dimensions and the numbers being lost. So quarter inch tall is a good number. 3/16 is a good number in height for the numbers. Anything smaller than that is a problem. Note I'm putting the dimensions in between the views. Yes, you can pull them outside the view if you have to, but the idea is your eyes scan from view to view and the numbers are constantly being reinforced. So that is a very good practice to do it that way and not to put them to the outside. You can, in some cases, put a dimension inside an object if you have to, but best practices, that's something you're going to avoid. There's no need for it here, so we definitely won't do it. Okay, now we're starting to lay in some extension lines and also dimension lines. So right now I'm drawing these dimension lines. They show where the dimension ends, and they'll connect up to extension lines that show where exactly on the object those dimensions go to. And with the numbers already in place, it's very easy to not get squeezed either way. So that's a good work order, if you will. And now I'm drawing an extension line, another one, about 1/8 of an inch away from the object. I'm a little tight, to be honest. So I would perhaps make an even more distinct break. All right. And now we're going to go with some vertical extension lines. Right. They should never cross an object line as such, but they certainly can cross each other, as we see there. And now I'm making a nice stabby, pointy arrows. A common mistake I see students do is they're making these very sort of fat, open arrows. Please don't. All right. And we're nearly done with that part, and then we'll get into the angle dimensions. So I'm going to pull out a circle template. As much as I love a compass, it's actually easier to do really good work with circle template than a compass. And I'm going to get a big enough arc for the dimension line and leave a break for the 30-degree angle, and then add in the arrows. Right? I've got enough dimensions that all the information is there. You don't have to do math, but I've also avoided any redundant dimensions. Remember, the purpose of evaluation, above all else, is to learn. So how are we doing on neatness? Well, we've got that one little corner I've circled in the upper view, but other than that, we're in pretty good shape. The biggest problem in this drawing is that object line, which I failed to erase, and that's a major hit. It shouldn't be there. I've prepared a wooden block that represents the object we are drawing, and it allows us to look at the views. Now, ideally, we'd paint the block white, we'd add black lines where the object lines will go. That is a sharp transition. But I think you can see, yeah, you shouldn't have that extra line there that you put in for no apparent reason. If we look at the top view, everything lines up fine, so we're good to go there. I think you can see with the side view, particularly with the shadow, how you get that sort of stepped effect that we represented properly. So let's talk about alignment. Now, as you might expect from a drafting instructor, my alignment is spot on and I'm good to go. But I do see many students getting challenged with this, and that means that as your instructor, I need to do a better job explaining it. We really want that top view directly above the front view and the side or end view directly to the side of the front view. That means you really need to plan where the views are going to land, as it were, and then make sure that you're consistent with what happens in one view, happens in the other view, just differently, and they line up. Well, I hope that was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly had fun making this video. Take care.